In this lesson, I'm sharing with you my 7 decorating essentials for every room. These are the elements that I think need to be in every space to make a room feel complete. If you find yourself looking around your home and feeling like there are rooms that just don't feel complete, check your room against these elements and see if you have all of these things in your room. If you don't, try adding one of them in and you'll see how it really creates this kind of finished space. So let's talk through all 7 of them. The first one is a neutral foundation. This usually takes place through your main furniture pieces, and the reason I love going with a neutral foundation is that not only are they typically classic and you can keep them for long term, so usually a bed or a sofa or a dining room table, those are going to be more of investment pieces. So by choosing really neutral classic pieces, you'll be able to keep them for long term and not have to replace them and spend the money on replacing furniture over and over again. But also what I love about a neutral foundation is that you can really change it seasonally or when your style alters, or you can add trendy items to it and take those away when they're no longer a trend, and you still have your main neutral foundation pieces. When you're looking for the neutral foundation, recognize that these will be your biggest investment pieces. If you're going to spend a bunch of money on neutral foundation pieces, make sure that they are classic style and durable material. You want to try to keep these for a long term so that you can use them year after year after year. Number 2 is texture. This doesn't just have to be in how it feels, but also how it looks. Does it reflect light? Does it have a sheen? Is it smooth and rough, woven, embossed, or textured? The thing about texture, especially in neutral rooms, which is usually what I'm drawn to, is that it adds so much depth. When all of the surfaces are flat, it really makes the room feel flat. So by adding in that texture, you're able to layer in that really interesting depth, maybe even without adding a bunch of color or pattern, but just that texture is a great way to implement that into your room. So here's a few ways through sheen. This is the reflective nature of the surface. So a shiny glass lamp or a metal table, this lucite chair, mirrored items, lacquer, and then the hardware that you use for your doorknobs or your cabinetry that can add some really great sheen to your space. A mix of smooth and rough texture, so this could be in the woven nature of a jute rug or a really soft, fluffy sheepskin rug. Baskets are a great way to bring in some rough texture. You can use leather for smooth. The grain of wood is a great way to add in texture. And then you see with this collection of vases that there's that really smooth concrete, and then there's some more interesting patterned vases. And probably the easiest way, my favorite way to add texture to a room is through your textiles, through your throw pillows. There are so many great different textures of pillows. You can get just a flat linen, velvet, leather, fur, cable knit, embossed, and embroidered pillows. All of these, when you add them all together and layer them, the textures play off each other so nicely. The third essential of every room, in my opinion, is pattern. So you can incorporate pattern through your accessories, your art, textiles, rugs, and your walls. Here are some examples of pattern. And I know mixing patterns can trip people up, so let's go through some tips for mixing patterns. So here are the keys. You want to choose a cohesive color palette. So choosing different patterns that all kind of relate to each other based on a color palette. You want to vary the scale. So here's a large scale, a medium scale, and a small scale from left to right. And here's a little recipe you can use. You can add 1 organic, 1 geometric, a textured, and a solid. Again, keep them all in a similar color palette. They don't all need to be the exact same color, but somehow mixing in the tones of a color palette. And then you can add that organic, geometric, textured, and solid. Here's one more example of the organic leaf plus a geometric plus a textured, and then a solid. Now the solid also has some texture to it, but it doesn't have any pattern to it, which reads as a solid. Depending on the energy level and the mood of your room, the more pattern mixing, the more energetic your room will feel, and then the less amount of patterns you have in your room, the more calm it will feel. So I don't feel like you need to have a ton of pattern, but I do think it really makes it interesting. It makes your eye want to move around the room if there is a little bit of a mix of pattern. Number 4 is a touch of black. You've maybe heard this before. I feel like this was kind of an old-fashioned saying that all rooms need a touch of black, and I really believe it's true. It adds a sense of depth, and it really grounds a space by having some black. So little things, you don't even need to have a ton of black, but just having a touch, like maybe a piece of furniture or in your light, some art, a rug, on the little piping edge of your bed sheets, or in your picture frames. Here are a few examples of rooms that have a touch of black. It doesn't even have to be an obvious amount of black. So in the room on the left, you just see some little piping in that blanket, and then in the black and white artwork on the wall. The center room is my office, so I have a blackboard wall in there, and it just adds a lot of depth and a little bit of drama to the space. And on the right is one of my favorite bedrooms. The light fixture has a little bit of black on it, the feet of the bed. So you don't even have to have a ton of black, but just a little touch of it really elevates a room. Here are a couple more examples. Again, they're not overboard black. There's just that touch of the frames in that center one, the artwork on the right, and then the bed frame on the left. If your style leans a little more bohemian, adding black works great with that style as well. Just the light fixture or some details in the art or your patterns in your pillows. That black just adds some drama to all of these spaces. Number 5 is natural wood tones. This could be in your floors. That would be, our first instinct would be to say that you have wood floors, but even if you don't have wood floors, it can be found in your furniture, baskets, and accessories. And I love the warmth that natural wood tones will bring into any space. So think about ways that you can add it through maybe a jute rug, some bamboo finish on a chair, or a lamp that's wood. In a kitchen, old antique breadboards look really nice, maybe a stack of wooden bowls or a vase. So a few examples of rooms that have done a great job of adding in a little bit of the warmth of wood. So without this warmth, the room sometimes gets a little flat or maybe a little cold and sterile. So by adding in some warmth in that kitchen, you see that beautiful bowl on the countertop, the breadboards leaning up. In the bathroom on the right, they added in that wood vanity that really warms up an otherwise pretty utilitarian and cooler toned room. A few more examples in more living spaces, you see that natural wood tone that comes out, and really it just brings so much warmth and life to all of these rooms. A few more examples, you can use furniture as your natural wood tones. You can also use your light fixtures seen in the right, or even woven blinds as seen in the middle. So just adding in a little bit of natural wood tone, it brings warmth and finishes out a space so beautifully. Number 6 is something personal. So I love walking into a home and having something there that tells me about whose home it is. So this could be something that reflects your interests, your travel, your family, any collections that you might have, and something that tells your guests a little bit more about you. It could be personal. It also could just be unique. It could be unique to your style. So in our home, here are a few ways that I've added some personal touches. On the left is a wall of all of these collected L's. My last name is Lex, and so we've been collecting L's and framing them out in interesting frames. In the center is a salvaged window that we added to separate between the entry and the dining room. Now, this isn't necessarily personal to us, but it is something unique. It's a statement that makes our home a little bit different than maybe our neighbor's home. The photo on the right is in our living room, and we transformed our builder-grade fireplace into something that's a bit more unique. It makes a statement. There's nothing super personal about the use of shingles or stone, but by adding kind of some different unique elements into our home, it adds a little bit of personality and allows the guests that come in to learn a little bit more about our style, our aesthetic, our willingness to take a risk. A few more examples of something personal. A collection is a great way to do this. So a collection of baskets or old vintage cameras or globes. Adding in your children's artwork is also a really fun way to bring in something personal. So the key to this number 6, something personal, is just finding something that maybe has a story or is somehow more meaningful to you, and a way that you can represent your own style through your home, that when guests come in, they learn a little bit more about you. And number 7, which I feel like maybe is the most important to me, is fresh greenery. This could be found in plants, in trees, in branches. Of course, flowers are gorgeous and I always love flowers, but sometimes just adding green is all a room really needs. So a few of my favorite plants are fiddle-leaf fig trees, maidenhair ferns, Boston ferns. Different herbs are great, like rosemary or thyme. An orchid, yes, I know this is a flower, but it really acts as just a neutral green. The plant in the bottom right is called baby tears, which is a great little indoor plant. And then, of course, you can cut branches from outside and pop them in a vase, and those always look great. So the thing about greenery is that most of the time the plants are fairly inexpensive. So you can go and get a little maidenhair fern for $4.99 and it will last for a couple of months, maybe if you keep good care of it, which is so much more affordable than going out and buying cut flowers all the time. So just adding in a fern that is not very expensive, even if it dies in a couple of months, it's still less than buying a bouquet of flowers every week. And really adding greenery just brings so much life to a space. So in all of these rooms you see there's that fig tree on the left, a little palm frond that's there up on the fireplace and those hydrangeas in the center, and then a fern, which is probably my favorite plant to put into a house just because it adds that green, but it also has so much texture and life to it. Also, you could add those clipped branches. Here's a little clipping that's in a bathroom. So don't overlook all the small spaces in your home that you wouldn't always think about putting a plant. You could put it in a child's room, in a playroom, in a bathroom, and then also bedside. So those are my 7 decorating essentials. I put them all together for you in a little handout. You can carry it with you and walk through the rooms throughout your house. And if you're missing any of these little elements, maybe try adding some of those in and see if it finishes your space for you. I think that's a hard thing for most of us to feel like we can walk in and see a space being finished. It usually feels like there's just something missing. So my best tip for you is to look at this list of 7 items and see if there's anything missing from it and add those in. If you love the idea of having your home feel cohesive and put together, but you're not quite sure how to get there, I invite you to join our online class called Simplified Decorating. In class, you'll have instant and unlimited access to 17 lessons along with printed worksheets to help you along the way. We'll cover things like how to discover your personal style, avoiding common decorating mistakes. You'll learn how to choose a color scheme that you can actually stick to, and you'll find out what 7 elements every room should have, and then how to incorporate them into your home. Making your home a pretty place that brings you joy and welcomes guests doesn't have to cost a ton or feel overwhelming. Our goal with Simplified Decorating is to make the process easy and enjoyable too. If you enjoyed this sample lesson, you'll love Simplified Decorating. Go ahead and join now. Checking out is super easy, and once you're finished, you'll be able to start right away. If for any reason you're not in love with what you're learning in class, just let us know and we're happy to offer a full refund. So click below and begin today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in class.